Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic, wonderful day today. I am Michael Ward Jr., the President and CEO of Austin Urban Technology Movement. And today is the fourth and final installment of ReThink Austin 2021. Today, we're going to be focused on our community impact session called More Than an Entrepreneur. We have three amazing guests that will be speaking in depth about what it really means to be more than an entrepreneur. So for those that don't know, ReThink Austin was created to rethink the trajectory of this city and really prevent the division between the have and have nots, the educated, uneducated, and the experienced and unexperienced. So this session today is going to be impactful, and I want to jump right in because I know time is of the essence. So let me bring to the stage one of our panelists and our moderators that will be joining with us for ReThink Austin. So, Patty, how are you?
I'm super happy, excited, Michael, to be here today. I feel honored to have been invited by Autumn and Harlem Labs to be part of this session, which I've been following, of course, all the sessions throughout this year. And every single one of them just leave me with so many thoughts and so many ideas to start implementing in my life. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Hey, Patty, thank you so much for joining in because, ReThink Austin started in 2019 as an all-day event, but because of the pandemic and because everybody being zoomed out, we decided to separate ReThink Austin over 4 quarters. So today is the last and final installment of ReThink Austin, and I'm very looking forward to the conversation. So Patty, so before I hand it off to you and I leave, I actually want to just bring up a little stats that I know just around entrepreneurship here in Texas to really set the stage. So for those that don't know, based on the 2018 report that the Texas Small Business Department actually administered last year in 2020, here in Texas, only 10% of businesses are led by those that are Black. 18% are led than those that are Hispanic, and only 7% are led by women. So here in Texas, we have so much opportunity around entrepreneurship and different ways that individuals can have a positive impact in our society. So I wanted to set the stage there before I bow out. But Patty, I'm going to hand it off to you to go into depth about what are some of these opportunities and some things that entrepreneurs are doing today. So Patty,
Thank
I'll
you.
hand it off to you.
That's super interesting facts that you just shared. And that actually gives me the cue to introduce our next panelist. And I'm going to start off with Miss Kristen Bonds. She is the founder of Heuristic. Hey, Christine, I'm so happy to have you here. And I am so honored actually to be sharing this space with you. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing so well. It's such a pleasure to be here and an honor to be asked to speak with ReThink Austin. Michael's a genius for bringing this to life.
I agree with you. And I'm going to bring Dayron Bowers to our conversation as well. Hi, Dayron. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. Like I just mentioned to Christine, I'm so happy and excited and honored to be sharing this space with you guys and this conversation that is just based on what Michael just shared. Oh my God, isn't it crazy like what entrepreneuring is or entrepreneurship? How are you today, Dayron?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
This is awesome, guys. So, because I really want to jump in right directly into the conversation, I'm going to ask you guys a question. But as you answer this, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit of what your company does without getting too in depth, because I do have a question about what exactly you guys provide as services. So, Christine, let me start with you. Please tell me a little bit about Heuristic, but also tell me, how do you define entrepreneurship?
Sure. So, Heuristic is a talent strategy consultancy business focusing on inclusion and belonging practices in the workspace. My co founder and I came from a long history of talent and people operations in tech companies of all sizes. And last year, we saw an opportunity to step in and really kind of guide and lead the conversation based on our experience towards inclusive practices in the workplace. So, that's the general version of what we do. And for me, entrepreneurship is taking the initiative to push your work forward in a way that you couldn't do as an individual. I think that that is like kind of my core driver around the work that I do now. Is a longtime activist in a lot of these spaces where we're talking about disadvantaged folks. I wanted to be an activist, and now I found a way to take my work so much further with a business than I ever could as an individual. And that's what I see as the core driver of entrepreneurship.
That's a great answer. That's a great response. And like I said, we're gonna dive a little deeper into what heuristic does. But before we go into that, Dairon, same thing to you, please. How would you define entrepreneurship? And as you answer this question, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of what connects. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Connects.
Connects.
Connects. What
Yes.
connects
So
you?
Dayron Bowers of Connects Incorporated. We focus on management and leadership development with a special place in our hearts for showing individuals how to start up their business from scratch. Entrepreneurship for me is a long journey, but the problem tends to be that we start our own jobs versus our own business. So that's really where the basis and the core of, helping startups begins for us. It's just part of the process.
I agree. You're totally right. That's how it all starts. So I'm going to introduce myself and as well answer that question. My name is Patty Sesma, and I am the founder and co-owner of Places by Patty Sesma. And entrepreneurship for me is, because I am Latina and I translate this word into Spanish, which means emprender, to launch or start. It just, to me, is the action of doing something actively. I think that being as an entrepreneur, people are actually, like you mentioned, being activist about something they really believe on. I do want to say and bring, excuse me, and bring up something that I just learned last year. I took a course in the Harvard online courses that they provide, and it was super good. It was about technology entrepreneurship from lab to market. And the first thing that they actually explain to you is from Mr. Nubar Afayan. I'm hoping to pronounce his name correctly. He's one of the American Canadian entrepreneur. And he was actually saying that for him, the word entrepreneurship, like the suffix ship, means the state of being something. That to him is more about entrepreneuring. He's actually the founder or co-founder of the biotechnology company Moderna, which we all are very familiar with. What do you guys think about this difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneuring? Kristen, I'll go with you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't heard that, but it makes a lot of sense to me because I have never worked as hard as I do as an entrepreneur, right? There's a lot of action going on. And that's actually one of the values we have at Heuristic, is to be very intentional about what we're doing and the work that we're doing in the diversity inclusion space. As far as I'm concerned, we're very late to that. So we need to move. We need to move as fast as we can. And growing up in my career in the tech space, like failing often and quickly is kind of the best practice. So I really appreciate and respect the idea of doing it rather than not doing it.
Totally agree with you. Taking the step. What do you think about that, Dairon?
Well, no, I agree with that definition, and I'd add on to entrepreneurship as being able to solve problems. So there's problem solving, identifying a problem, being able to solve that problem. But the second part of that is getting funding to support the solution, which is the biggest challenge for most of us.
Totally agree with you. That's a big part of it. And I would also say that is something that may be either a challenge or a good factor into becoming a successful entrepreneur. I'm going to jump to another question, which I have like 3 basic questions that I really want to hear your thoughts on this. How would you, Dairon, define passion?
Well, I think passion goes to that problem identification, right? We all see problems around the world. We all see problems within our community. And then there's this, burning, a fire inside of you that says, wait, that's not right. I got to fix that. So I would define passion as, those problems that you see, probably you're passionate about. If you see that, there's issues in financial literacy, and you're good with, finances, you're probably passionate about teaching people financial literacy. Patty, for you in marketing, if you see there's problems with branding and something's not right with the business's exposure, your passion is driven by, that task to solve or provide that solution.
Correct. Agree. What about you, Christine? How would you define passion?
Well, I would describe it as something that makes you light up inside, and like you know it when you see it, like right off the bat. Since we're in these like squares life cycles now, we're talking to people digitally all the time. I do a lot of networking that way, and when I hear someone speak about something that they're passionate about, it just jumps through the screen to me, and it lights up. And
Mhm.
when you find something that you can employ as your vocation, that you're that passionate about, it doesn't feel quite as much like work anymore. Or even if it does, it's something that you can bring so much energy to that I think that you can take that work further. Like we see a lot of folks out there who are not passionate about their work or their jobs or their employers. But when you find something that hits right, it works a lot better. And I want to push for that everywhere we can.
I agree with you. I'm just with you. I think that passion to me has to do a lot with the spark that actually you feel to do something. So to me, passion is the excitement that drives you to take action. Sometimes you were mentioning that, Dayron, if you in the marketing area, for example, in my own experience, I see that something is not right, I do take the action. But in order to do that, I need to feel that passion, that spark, that excitement about fixing the problem, right? So I'm totally in agreement with you guys. And my third question, to kind of like kick off the full conversation, is how would you, Christine, define purpose?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I've been doing lots of conversations about purpose lately, but for me, purpose is that core driver, and it's something that's your North Star for whatever piece of your life you're talking about. You can point it back to that. I think it's what you, depending on your strategy for how you'd like to live your life and your legacy after your life, everything kind of points towards what you'd like to accomplish and what you'd like to leave behind. And if you stay true to that purpose, then things will kind of naturally, spiritually develop the way they should. And if you get away from your purpose, the universe will tell you right away, like right away. So I think it's your core driver behind what you do.
How about you, Darren?
Kristen, I love that. The North Star. I love that. And couldn't agree more. Your purpose is, I'd say your purpose is the mission that drives you. But we kind of start off on internal, and it's about me. Your purpose is how you leave a lasting impact amongst others within your community, in the world and society. That's what your true purpose is for me.
I agree with you guys. To me, purpose, and I've been thinking a lot about this question when I was preparing for this session. I think that it all, for me, it all boils down to it's the reason why I do what I do, and the reason why behind a campaign, for example, in my area. So if I want to create empowerment, right, and I want to focus on making people feel better about something, I have a purpose, right, and that is like the reason why I'm actually entrepreneuring, basically. So those are the three main questions that I really wanted to kick off this conversation with. But before we move on, I want to bring Michael Ward Jr. Actually, we're going to wait a little bit on that because I do want to bring him back because he has a really important message for us and all the people that is going to either watch or be watching this, because as you know, these live streams usually go to YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. They remain there. So this is an important message that he wants to give to all our viewers, but we'll hold off on that a little bit, and I'm going to jump directly to the next question. So Dayron, how can people, speaking of purpose, how can a person find a sense of purpose through their business or in their business?
Keep on failing. The more you fail, the more you learn. There was a quote that I saw a few days ago. It was, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes improvement. So the more you practice, the more you improve. And the more you find, what I call in entrepreneurship, the pivot point. where we start out and, you know, it's, hey, this is my business, this is what I'm going to do. And then, you know, the crossroads meet where you're running your business and then you realize you got to pay your bills. And then it's like, oh, shoot, what do I do? And this is when hustle kicks in. But, you know, once you get past that point and really find, you know, what it is that you're good at and what it is that the community or the community of consumers accepts from you, that's where you drive and kind of drive your ship and, you know, steer your ship. There you go.
There you go. I like that. What do you think about that, Christine?
No, I totally agree. And I believe that when you're all of a sudden in an entrepreneurship role or entrepreneuring role and you're wearing all of the hats, you quickly find out like what lights you up and what you absolutely loathe in that workplace, which helps you narrow down even further like where your purpose is. In my organization, there's two of us who lead, and like we have very different skill sets. We're very similar in a lot of ways, but we complement each other really well. And there's things she loves to do that I don't like, and vice versa. And that helps us figure out how we're going to drive the business forward and the work we do based on like what lines up best to that purpose that we find.
Totally agree with you. To me, in my area, finding purpose through my business has to do a lot with knowing and learning and understanding the audiences that I'm speaking to. For example, if I have a client, I really need to get involved with their clients. And then that will speak to me on how to really do my work through my client so that they would actually get the reasons why we do what we do. It involves a lot of creativity and a lot of research as well in my area as well, like I mentioned. But I do think that in my personal experience, the purpose that I've been trying to find is always behind the people that are actually receiving the messages that we are trying to convey. It's so funny because during 2020, I was super honored as well to be invited by my alma mater. I actually went to the Universidad de Monterrey, University of Monterrey, UDEM, and they invited me to give a talk to high school students who were going to graduate, and they were in the path of actually finding their passion, their purpose, and what they wanted to do with their careers. So it was so interesting to me that I was giving just a talk like this one and talking about purpose and passion. And they were like more than 2 or 3 people were actually asking the same question. Yeah, Patty, but how do we find that? Like, we know what it is, but how do we really find like the whole package, the formula of feeling a passion, finding a purpose? Do you guys think that's hard to do? Like, do you think it's actually I don't want to use the word challenge, but how do we get to the point? What do you think, Kristen?
Well, if you had asked me 2 years ago how I felt about my work, I would have told you I was happy and thriving. I loved the last startup I worked at in a leadership role on the talent and people side. And then I started ReThink, and it is night and day different in terms of matching to my purpose and the fulfillment and joy that I have from operating in this space. And so without the craziness of the past 2 years and the push that came from COVID to launch into entrepreneurship, I would never have known that this was more aligned to me than I realized. And so I agree that it is very difficult to figure it out, especially if you get lucky enough to be in a position where you're comfortable. But I will say that there's always something underneath that's reminding you that there's a little bit more you could do. Like the things that frustrate you, that misalign with your values, I think are signs that you need to like go closer to your purpose. For example, my last office space, I was always dragging folks to volunteer with me. Philanthropy, corporate philanthropy has always been my thing. It's been my role. I'm that annoying girl dragging you to the food pantry once a week. And the feedback I got was like not super uplifting. And like very often I was kind of told to be quiet about some of the things that I was trying to push. And it always frustrated me, but I was in a comfortable space. But now it's my job to speak about these things. And if I had done more work back then to sit there with like, why do I care about this so much? Why is this important to me? I might have realized sooner that this is the direction I needed to choose instead.
Totally agree. In finding that answer like within yourself and kind of like understanding all the science around, it's just basic, fundamental, super important to be aware, because that speaks to you on the next steps. What do you think about that, Darren?
So one of the things I do, or actually started to do to develop my own personal skill sets, was teaching at Houston Tillotson University. So, there's a saying that if you want to be an expert at something, you should teach it. So with business management and, understanding how to, build and run and manage a business, that threw me into the realm of teaching. One of the books we use in our small business management class is a popular one in the business industry, Jim Collins' Good to Great. So in there's a concept called the hedgehog concept. And it argues the point that, you have foxes and you have hedgehogs. Foxes can do a lot of things. They're cunning. They know how to pivot, but they're good at a lot of things, not great at anything. And where a hedgehog only does one thing, it defends itself. It rolls up into a ball and it's great at it. A hedgehog or a fox could never defeat a hedgehog because a hedgehog's always going to roll up into defense. So when you look at your own personal drivers, it goes down to 3 questions. What can you be, or what drives your economic engine? What can you be the best at that people would pay you for? And then what would you do for free? And if you can brainstorm between those 3 questions, what drives your economic engine? What can you be the best at that people would pay you for? And then what would you do for free? In the middle of that somewhere, there really aligns your passion and your purpose.
Oh my God, what you just said is so beautiful. And I love the analogy that you used. It actually reminded me of the movie Forrest Gump, because to me, that movie speaks a lot about passion and doing one thing at a time and fully dedicating yourself to be the best at it. So I love what you just said. Before we actually go into the next question, let me bring up Michael Ward Jr., the president and CEO of Austin Urban Technology Movement. Give me Michael. So I know that you wanted to share something really important before we continue with our conversation. So please go ahead and tell us everything.
For sure. Well, everybody, I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I'm learning so much just around failure and us being able to learn from our mistakes to make sure we're making good decisions moving forward. So before we continue, I wanted to come and take a special shout out to the individuals that have supported us up until this point and encourage you all to help us rethink Austin. So right now we are asking you all to donate through the QR code in the top right corner. You can also go to our website at rethinkatx.com to donate as well, because during this year, because of your support, because of your donations, we've been able to do so much great work. Since last year, we have raised over $1.4 million to really rethink the trajectory of the city. We're doing that through workforce development. We're doing that through collaboration with partners such as National Instruments, such as Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, that have partnered with us to not only rethink what the tech industry is, but what can we do to make Austin a better place for everybody, right? So we're looking for supporters, we're looking for collaborators, we're looking for people who want to make a good trouble. So we encourage you all to help support our cause because we have grown significantly. Right now, our reach is over 300,000 users. We have engaged with over 100 families through workforce development training. And today, I'm very proud to say that we have officially have our own office space. So now we're going to be starting doing some in-person programming as well as we look to get back to in-person activities. So there's growth all around. So we encourage you all to donate. You could take a scan of the QR code in the top right corner or top left, depending on where you are. But then we also want you to just engage with us because we cannot do this work without you. So once again, shout out to our sponsors, Michael Susan Dell Foundation, National Instruments, and Microsoft, that helps make events like this possible so that we can rethink the trajectory of our city and prevent the further divide between the have and have nots. So Patty, I'm going to bow out. I'm going to give it back to you, but I did want to come and just share some achievements and also share some encouragement to keep on doing the good work. So thank you, Patty.
Michael, that was great. And I appreciate that you shared that, because I feel like I'm part of this movement and of ReThink Austin, as I have been invited to be a panelist today. And I do want to encourage people to actually make a donation. And yes, thanks to them is that we are where we are, and we're able to take this as the people that locals and people everywhere around the world, actually, because we have global reach, right? So we're all part of this, and just making a donation makes a big difference. So thank you, Michael. I'm gonna bring back Christine and Dayron to continue our conversation.
Love it. Bye, Patty.
Bye. So thank you guys for that space that we just had. It's super interesting. And like Michael was saying, yes, people, please, the QR code is gonna be there for you guys to just scan the QR code with your phone, and that will take you directly to make donations. I do believe that because of you, these types of events happen, and because of you is that we are able to make differences in our community. So let me ask you guys the next question. We're going to jump directly into what all of us do, and I want to talk a little bit about our company. So let me start with you, Kristen. What problem is Heuristic actually solving right now?
Yeah. The problem Heuristic's trying to solve is building for inclusion in the workplace. Mercedes and I believe in the future of work, where many of the problems that we're all sort of aware about, some more than others, around systemic bias in workplaces are mitigated. And we want to believe that the future of work, where people are comfortable to bring their full selves to work, is totally attainable, and we'd like to get there faster. We know it's going to take a lot of work, but we would like to be at the front lines of dismantling this kind of bias wherever we see it, so that everyone from any walk of life can thrive in their workplace, wherever they choose.
I love that. I think you and I have talked about this before, and I really want to give us a space to talk a little bit about our stories. We all have a story for that actually took us to where we are right now, and I would like to share that in a minute. So, Dayron, what exactly is Connect's? What problem is Connect solving right now?
So Connect solves the problem of customer service. And I'd say that, we all know some crappy businesses out there. And those businesses, typically, we don't come back to patronize them. So when you're in the small business atmosphere, if your business isn't managed properly, if it's not led well, it's going to show up in your customer service. So by developing leaders, developing managers, and showing how to truly orchestrate or conduct customer service, that's where we really hit and focus on.
I love that. So for me, Places by Patty Sesma is solving the problem of giving small businesses, specifically Latino, and I would like to say that restaurants, the problem of them not having an online presence. And during 2020, I did see a lot of people getting super desperate about the fact that they didn't know how to manage a Facebook page to be in connected or open to new customers through online channels. And that is something that I have been doing for 8 years, and I've been coming across this problem since then. So it means that we are really not advancing in that situation. It's a huge area of opportunity just to jump in with businesses that are actually lounging and offering them. This actually responds a little bit to the questions that you were talking about. What would you do for free? What would you want to be paid for? And that to me has to do a lot with passion. I remember when I started doing this, it all started because I enrolled as a Google trusted photographer to become the photographers that actually take the photos that you stitch and become the tour inside the businesses for Google Maps. And I am passionate about photography, so I started doing that. And I remember back then the program was very structured, and we were not allowed to give that for free. So we had to charge people for our time taking the photos. And I remember going into the businesses and just basically begging people for, allow me to take the photo of your restaurant, allow me to take the photo of your business, you're gonna love it, you're gonna be on Google Maps. And they were like, what is that, what are you talking about? But just the way I was selling the products, I thought, now that I like look back, I feel like they were looking at me like, she really believes in what she's selling, so okay, just give it to me. I have no idea what you're selling me, but let's do it. But inside of me, I was happy to just give that away for free because it was a passion for me. So it actually relates a lot to the conversation that we were addressing before. And actually, before I move on to the next question, I do want us to share a little bit of the story behind what the business that we're running right now. I kind of share a little bit about mine, but I want to learn about Heuristic and Connects. What exactly is the story behind that business? How do you guys came up to build that? Please, let's do these briefly because we do have questions that people are asking, and I also have some questions that I want to ask because it's important for people to learn. So, Dayron, I'm going to start with you.
All right. Well, so I started off in marketing, and specifically for service-based businesses. We identified, I had a partner of mine who identified, there was a lot of small service-based businesses that were making a large amount of, income, but they were having trouble retaining customers and reaching customers. Getting into, that atmosphere, there's a lot of competition in marketing. And, the business owners don't have a true grasp or understanding of the value behind marketing, and then, the reach that it has. So, when you're looking at marketing, you're thinking about website, you're thinking about social media, there's so many aspects to it. But that breaks down to designers, that breaks down to SEO, that breaks down to somebody to create the site, and you got to have somebody to manage it. So when, you're talking to these small business owners, that especially in service-based industries, they're very successful in sending out mailers. I identified very early that I was the first contract to go when times slow, season, started to, dry up. Essentially for me, what caused me to pivot was that, there were a lot of business owners that kind of just had no idea how to manage or take their business to the next level. They couldn't retain employment. They didn't know where to hire or how to hire good people. Really putting the process behind individuals' businesses, and then also the training behind that process, has been, really supportive and helpful for, a lot of my customers.
That's super interesting. I think it's super important as entrepreneurs to be able to identify a problem that is affecting a community or the society, and be able to have or bring creative ways to solve it, understanding that what you're going to bring as a solution is something that you need to also educate people to adopt. So how about you, Kristen? What made you create your company?
Yeah, just like what you mentioned just a second ago. Our Mercedes and I, my co-founder, our long history in the kind of talent and people leadership space inside of tech companies led us to see many, many years of performative allyship in the workplace, and many, many years of talking about inclusion work, but nothing really happening, nothing really changing. There are devastating studies on things like pay equity that really haven't changed in decades, right? Despite all the conversation that we've had. And last year, the world changed on this issue in a really significant way. And Mercedes and I, as private activists in the Black Lives Matter space and many other spaces, saw an opportunity, like I said earlier, to take the work that we were doing as individuals and actually push it further and make more of an impact to bring around the conversation for good on these issues. And that's what caused us to start this business. I for the first time last year, I was seeing significant investments into these inclusion spaces. I was seeing conversations happen inside of communities that had never discussed, inclusion before. And I saw the leadership in major companies supporting it. And that's what you really need to make, influential corporate change, right? So with all of that being said, it was the right time and the right place for us to take our personal passion for all these things and push it forward. And there are a lot of folks who are brilliant working in the DEI space. And we have this abundance mindset that there's enough work to go around for everyone. And we would like to contribute any way we can, because the more we talk about these issues, the better chance we have of solving them.
Actually, Christine, what you're just saying takes me to ask you the next question, which is, how does your business model take into consideration the needs of your community?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer this for us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like I said, Mercedes and I come from this corporate space, right? And Michael, a year ago, is actually the person who pointed out to me for the first time that what we're really lacking in the space that we're talking about here is a full feedback loop all the way back into the community. So you have, big tech companies who want to have big recruiting pushes for diverse talent. You have folks who are building like inclusive, belonging structures inside of employee experiences. But is that actually changing people's lived experiences at work, and then thus their communities and the sense of belonging that they have out in the world? I'm not sure we have enough data on that to have that full feedback loop yet. And so that's where Heuristic is trying to stick ourselves in the middle of everything. We would like to be the bridge between the corporate spaces who know they need to do something and they think they want to do the right thing, they just don't know what, and all of the community organizations like Autumn who are trying to actually make a difference in the community. We can kind of speak both languages, and we try to pull in this web of folks who have resources to give, and the community organizations that are making the real difference. So that's where we sit ourselves all the time. And Heuristic actually has a kind of a pro bono arm of our organization where we donate a ton of resources and energy to sitting right there in the middle and matchmaking as best we can those organizations and those community groups to make sure that the purpose is actually legitimized. And with guidance from Autumn and folks like Michael who are running organizations that are actually on the ground in the communities, we can give that full feedback loop back to those corporations and say, what you're doing isn't making a difference. We need to try something else. Or what you're doing is excellent and we need you to do more of it.
That is so important to have. Honestly, and to me right now, it's not optional anymore. So, what do you think about that, Aaron?
So I think that it's a different scope as a Black business owner, and becomes one of our biggest challenges. When you focus on only Black business or the Black community, we have to look at what that really represents. As Michael mentioned in the beginning, with Black business ownership being about 10% in Austin, if your goal is to help Black business owners, you only have a small piece of the pie to actually run and grow your business. So for me, it's where I align. As I mentioned before, I teach at Houston-Tillotson University, which is a historically Black college and university, and the only one here in Austin. And then also I'm the president of the National Black MBA Association. So, with being involved in that organization, even, as well, I also have to, when we're sitting down with a lot of corporate partners, I have to always make sure that we represent the diversity that we demand, so it becomes a challenge where, I think it's how you align yourself, and not so much for, especially for Black business owners to say, hey, I'm for the Black community, I'm for Black people, I'm for Black businesses. Well, when you have Latinos come, then you read the name and you're like, oh, this isn't for me. And you keep on moving. So you have to kind of be very flexible, to know how to target, your demographic, how to reach your demographic. But ultimately, you want to offer your business to everybody. The moment that you cut yourself off to a small percentage, you're not going to be as successful. And, there's not a lot, of growth potential in that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually share very much of what you just said with my own business, because for some reason, most of my clients are Latino restaurants. So I'm very familiar with how to handle and manage those businesses on social media. So I agree with you that you do have to manage like a specific type of service for specific groups. But yes, you want to be open and share your services with everyone, right? And that's very important. To me, the business model for Places by Patty Sesma, to me, business model has two components, which is the value creation and the value capture. So the value creation for me is actually offering a purpose for them to do marketing and trying to connect with the communities through something like identifying a problem of their clients, so that my client can actually promote that again through a purpose. I created a branch of my business that is called Tints by Patty Sesma. And what Tints does is basically create graphics and things that you can print on marketing materials like hats and T-shirts and things like that. And what we do, one of our businesses, for example, one of the businesses that I work with, they were very focused in empowering the Latino community. The owner of this business talked to me and said, Patty, I really want them to feel that self-love and being very conscious of who we are, regardless of our age, of our gender, of our anything. Like, we just need to feel sexy, hot, and happy and beautiful about ourselves. She's actually called the sexy chef in Austin, because she's a person who actually takes a lot of self-care. She's very focused in self-care. So we decided to create the I'm So Hot campaign to promote her spicy food, because she is actually selling chilaquiles. So it's very, very spicy. And we try to talk about being hot, but we also promote that you can answer, I am hot, and I'm so hot because you ate chilaquiles that are spicy, but at the same time, you can talk good about yourself. And that is the message. And to me, that is the value creation that we personally, at my business model, is offering to people. Like, I'm not only going to bring beautiful photos to Instagram about your dishes. That's not how it works. We don't do that anymore. That is old social media. Right now, you have to give something more, right? So we have questions from our some people from the panel. So I'm from the viewers. I'm gonna bring those right now, and then we'll continue with the next question, which I think it's really important to answer for all the viewers who want to start a business and are thinking about starting a business in 2022. Guys, we do face a lot of challenges, and we're going to share those right now before or after we actually address some questions from our audience. But stay there, because you want to learn about the challenges and how we face them in order to become the entrepreneurs that we are today. So I'm going to go and bring on Anne first. Anne is asking, do you think entrepreneurs are born or made? Wow, well, that's a great question, Anne. Growing up, did you ever think about owning a business before your current roles? So what do you think about that, Aaron? How would you respond to Anne?
Well, yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Always have been a serial entrepreneur. That's really what pushed me into starting my own business. It was basically, I was always going to ask myself, if I could do it, and there was always okay, I'll do it when I graduate. I'll do it when I pay off my student loans. I'll do it when, it was always, I'll do it when. And, eventually I had to jump ship and just, see what happened. So do I believe that entrepreneurs are born or made? I definitely think there's a mixture between the two. There are entrepreneurs that are born for it, made, but then, depending on where life takes you, you can also be made for it as well. Especially in today's society, just the way that the economy is moving, and, you have so many different options and remote options. You have so many different offerings that are available. If you develop a specific or a special skill set that's in high demand, you've basically, created your own entrepreneurship. There you go.
I love that. What do you think about that? Christine, how would you respond to Anne? Do you think entrepreneurs are born or are made?
I agree with Aaron that there's a lot of influence on both sides, but it would be naive for me to say that there aren't external forces outside of that too. It's not just up to the one person. Like, if you're going to start a business, you might need a loan. And there are some systemic issues out there that we need to address about how easy it is to attain that. And so my personal history is my dad was an entrepreneur. And I think he would tell you himself that he was an entrepreneur because he couldn't stand having a boss. And he always told me growing up that, like, you're never going to really get comfortable and you're never going to make real money until you run your own business and you run the show. And I had that in the back of my mind for most of my career thus far, but I never felt the push to do it until the world changed enough to push me into it.
Yes.
I will be totally frank that, like, it never would have occurred to me to launch a business had I not been laid off due to COVID. It never would have crossed my mind. I was comfortable. I was in a position of influence, albeit very small, and I was hitting some of the buttons that make me go most of the time. However, with the global shift and change, with the conversation about inclusion, opening up conversations that had never happened before, I saw an opportunity to take it further. And like I've been saying all day here, entrepreneurship allows me to do what I like to do and amplify it across more communities. And so I think that given the circumstances, like the circumstances of my privilege, allowed me to step into entrepreneurship in a confident way. I think that, Dayron, your approach of just doing it is probably better because that risk and reward has a lot to do with it, right? Like, people's risk aversion influences how they approach a decision like this. But I really do believe my dad was right. Like, I was never going to really get fulfillment in a significant way, nor was I going to create a stability in my life from incremental raises at a company that just trying to barely keep you there. I really didn't. I believe that that's true. So I think the answer, like Dayron said, is both. But if you want to push yourself in one of those directions, if you're listening to this right now, you're probably a little bit interested in entrepreneurship, right? Take the risk.
Yes, they are. And we're going to actually jump into the next question because we are 10 minutes away from ending this, concluding our conversation. And we do have questions that I want to address that are important for our audience to read about or to hear, because yes, that's exactly what we want to do. Christine, actually encourage people to take this step. So before we go to, I'm going to stop with the comments from our viewers, and I'm going to jump into the next question because I do think this is super important for people to know. And let's be brief because, oh my God, there's so many about this topic. There's so much to talk about this topic. So, Christine, in brief, what are the most significant challenges you have faced as a business owner?
Two things. One, I'll say that performative inclusion work still exists and runs rampant. And so being able to be very choosy about who we want as our clients to make sure that the work we're doing is actually going to be impactful has something that we needed to pay more attention to from the very beginning. And so the risk of the momentum of this work kind of dying is a challenge, but I'm bringing so much energy that I think that I can overcome it. And the second thing is, honest to God, I really do think that now that I'm in this position of leadership and influence, I am seeing firsthand bias against women in a way I've never seen it before. It's still there. It still exists. And I'm a powerful, strong, loud woman. I still see it. So it's nice to acknowledge it so that you can be able to combat it moving forward.
That's crazy. I mean, I think it's like the good thing is you have a solution for that, and that's exactly what you're doing. The challenges that Places by Patty Sesma faces, and this is actually something that's going to cue me to you, Dayron, because we talked about this, is my challenge is that people really don't know what I do. And they like social media and they see social media, but they use it as, let me post photos and talk to my family through Facebook. They don't really see the value behind using it for businesses. So you cannot explain that to them because they won't understand and they don't think they need it, but you know they do. So that is the main challenge. So if anyone here is listening or following us, if your area of expertise is about social media, you need to focus more on selling and convincing people about how much they need it rather than being good at that. So that's like my advice. What about you, Dayron?
Well, so to circle kind of back a little bit, I would not recommend that anybody just plunge and start their own business. There is a lot more that you're not aware of that you have to learn. But on the same side, I'm so glad I did because of what I was able to learn by just putting myself in the fire.
Oh my God.
But what I would say, for small businesses, the biggest challenge is what was mentioned, is funding. And for your business, there's two positions that it's going to be in, or two states. Your business is either innovating or it's dying. If your
Yeah.
business does not have access to capital, whether that's through customers or whether that's through financing, whether that's through investors, your business is going to be stale. And again, we all have bills. So if your business doesn't have income to pay employees, you being the main employee, your business is in a state of dying. So you always want to be positioning yourself to innovate, but being able to understand exactly what it means to get business financing. As Kristen said, there's a lot of money out there, but the challenge is our financial literacy, especially in minority communities. So understanding what does the bank need for a business to fund it. And, with that, you're talking about 5 to 7 years of credit history for your business. If your business doesn't have 5 to 7 years of credit history, then what's your credit look like? Because you're going to put your credit on the line to fund your business. And there's always going to be some sort of economical caused slowdown for your business. Whether that's your business is not, it's a slow season for your business, a pandemic occurs and the whole world is different. There's always going to be some type of challenge that you're going to have to face. So to be able to, gain funding, I'd say, the greatest lesson I learned was from sales. ABC, always be closing. So if you can always be in a state of closing, down to your pitch, down to your introduction, when you're meeting people, being very intentional, explaining what are people investing in when they invest in your business, showing people like, hey, this is what I do. Like you have to always be in that state of, driven closing so that either you're getting customers or you're getting investors.
Yeah, totally agree.
Can
And
I
you
add
know
one
what?
little thing there? I just want to offer some encouragement to what Dayron is saying. There are, like I said, systemic things that disadvantage non-majority folks from entrepreneurship, but there has never been a better time than now to jump into it because so many folks are doing work to open those doors and pull up a chair to those tables. There is more investment in Black business and women-owned business and Latino business than there ever has been. And it's still not equal by any stretch, but it's better than it ever has been.
Totally agree. Actually, you know what you were saying, Dayron, takes me to go back to Anne's question a minute ago. I feel like we all have the entrepreneurial spark within us, and you need to find like you just were mentioning, like taking action. Like what is going to take you to just take the step to help others once you have identified the problem. And then, yes, you're going to face a lot of challenges, but that is part of growth. If you have no challenges, you're not growing. That means you're stuck in the same place and there's nothing new that is actually making you stretch out, right? So, guys, let me ask you another question. How has the Great Resignation of 2021 impacted your business? Dayron, please. Sorry.
I mean, for me, I'd say more or less the pandemic has been the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Being comfortable to be face to face with people.
Mm-hmm.
And on the tail end of that, the challenge is we're tired of Zoom. Like these, Zoom, the virtual space. It's the world we're moving into, but it's just very, very exhausting if you're on the Zoom calls all day. And imagine somebody that works a full-time job, they live in this environment remotely, and then they're trying to have enough energy to start their business. And it's like, again, if you're not always selling your business, and you can't go into certain locations. There's this health conversation that comes, vax versus anti-vax and all these, things that come along. But, again, always be closing. So finding those points to where you can, go meet people and, expose yourself. But, I think it starts by, giving your business exposure from the very beginning. People won't buy what they don't know about.
True. You know what? I'm going to share that to me for Places by Patty Sesma. This is so funny, guys, and you're not going to believe it. But the Great Resignation has actually impacted very much my clients. Again, we are talking about restaurant industry. So it's one of the most important things for me to add as a value to the businesses I work with is to add faces and create a connection between the business as a person or as a face and their clients. And the fact that my clients have no staff working with them has completely pushed me to a place where I don't have access to them anymore. So when I was trying to make these videos about my client, the business owner, talking to their clients, inviting them to their places, is no longer happening because they're like, no, I don't have the time to record videos and I don't have time for your photos. I'm so sorry. Create content as you can. Just be general with the information. And that actually is removing the added value that I, as Places by Patty Sesma, give to my clients. So it has impacted me big time, to be honest. I know that you guys have heard a lot of restaurants that have been closing throughout the day because they don't have staff. They are out of staff. So it's really hard for me. How about you, Kristen?
Well, I'll say like the small business versus big business approach to this, I think is really key to differentiate. And small businesses are suffering significantly, as you've just described. For
Yes.
Heuristic, like our clients are like people leaders who are usually responsible for the hiring of the talent in their organization, right? And this comes out so often these days because of this upheaval of standardized talent practices. Like there aren't as many hard and fast rules anymore about how restaurants and workplaces and offices operate. And employers are finding out that they can't get away with as many of their bad habits as they have. So there's two sides to every coin, right? I am very excited about the shift of power towards the workers for their quality of life. That's why they're not working very difficult jobs that pay minimum wage any longer if the other opportunity arises. And as the people leaders of organizations are panicking around attrition concerns, this is a moment where we can bring attention to these issues that have long time been swept under the rug and deprioritized to focus on uplifting the workers' experience and their belonging that actually net positive productivity in a significant way. When folks are being paid enough and the work is rewarding enough and they have a feeling of like inclusion and belonging in their space, data shows, so many studies show that you're going to net positive in productivity, product, innovation, all the things that you want in an organization. And even when you're talking about a small business like a restaurant, you don't want to, like, I hate the idea of putting such big pressures, like a huge increase in minimum wage on a tiny mom and pop restaurant that's barely making it in COVID, right? So what can we do instead? Like, I think the time is right to talk about, big corporations who have the safety net to lead the way in encouraging the dialogue in this conversation towards workers' benefits. But at the same time, like, there may need to be policy changes at a state level or a federal level that actually influence this for the good. If the minimum wage changes, everything around that will also change in terms of support, the financial systems all around that. And it will be a tough upheaval. It'll be a shakedown. I really do believe that everything's thrown up in the air right now. And that's where you can move things the easiest. And then when they land again, it'll become a practice. So now is the right time to kind of push for what you think might be the best influence.
I agree with that. It's just, this is such an interesting conversation, and we're almost running over time, and I really want to just wrap it up with a very important question that I'm pretty sure everyone who's going to view or it's viewing right now this live stream, they have that question. Super obvious and simple. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of starting a business in 2022? And honestly, I want to start answering this question because I want you guys to be the people, the two panelists who actually close this this conversation. To me, because of my experience and what I went through, if you are thinking of starting or launching something, just do it. You're never gonna know how good or bad you are at it if you don't take this step. Yes, it's gonna be tough, but it's exciting. Yes, it's gonna be hard, but it's rewarding. Yes, it's gonna be you're gonna lose money, but you're also gonna gain a lot of things and a lot of money if it goes well. And the most important thing is anything you do today, it's actually going to be your business tomorrow. And you may have to go through the trial and error normal pathway that we all go through, but it is important that you take the step because you don't want to just think that it was not for you because you're never going to find it out. That's my personal experience. I love photography. I enrolled in the Google program. My coordinator at that time at Google, her name was Susan. Never going to forget her. She was so helpful. She said, Patty, if you're offering businesses the virtual tour for Google Maps, you should start offering them websites. So I started that based on her advice. And then I started with, hey, wait, the pandemic is making us go crazy and nobody is connecting with people. So that took me to, hey, let me start offering social media management services. And you're going to be growing as life happens. We never thought of a pandemic in our lifetime, and it happened. And we all became entrepreneurs after the pandemic. If you go to TikTok, you're going to be able to see so many people who actually quit. This is why the Great Resignation is happening. And they just started basically discovering what they were good at and following their passions and making it happen. So that's what I would recommend. Just take the step. Yes, it's challenging, but do it. You're going to love it. What would you say, Dayron?
Well, to keep it short, first, understanding what business ownership really is. When it comes down to business ownership, as far as Uncle Sam's concerned, you can have a sole proprietorship, which means that you claim your funds under your personal taxes, or you can have a registered corporation, which means that you have a EIN, an employee identification number. So Uncle Sam doesn't care if you mow lawns and you're a sole proprietor. And, all Uncle Sam wants to know is that whatever money you made for the year, that you tell me so I know how much to tax you. Now, when you get into business registration, what you're getting into is actually protecting your legal assets. So as a sole proprietor, if I mow lawns, if somebody gets injured while I'm doing a job or after I leave, the owner or the customer at that point can sue me, can sue everything. If I own property, they can sue me for everything that I own. If I have a LLC or a corporation, they can only sue for the assets that are under that corporation. So I say that to say that your business doesn't have to start tomorrow. You can register your business. I always say register as an LLC. You can do an S corp. You can do a corporation. There's so many different ways that you can register. But again, you're going to have a taxable ID. From that point, invest in your business. So investing in your business could be two ways: investing your own money into your business, or investing your time into truly creating or understanding what your business is and what you really want to do for a business. You'll find so many people that, we start because we want the freedom, we want to make the money, but the money doesn't drive you. The money doesn't, it's great, but then at a point, that money doesn't provide happiness. And, as we talked about earlier with, these businesses now that are dealing with challenges in regards to employment, that falls into the aspect of your business is either innovating or it's dying. If you don't innovate to hire people properly, you're not going to have employees, and no one's going to work harder for your business than you are. So,
Totally.
it becomes, again, that innovation is so key to continue to push your business, but you're always going to have problems. Solving those employment issues, it simply comes down to defining what is the job set that you need. And the information that we have on the internet, I mean, this is what's leading to the great resignation. People know that what I'm doing, I can get paid so much more, or I can just remote contract. There was something yesterday on CNN. There's part-time CEOs. There's a company that, that hires part-time leadership. And these are executive leaders that don't want to do it full time, but they want to give back their time to support. And they literally are contract hire, like workers. So what you have is a lot of people that it's not that we're, leaving companies not to work. We're leaving because there's so many options out there. And I was talking to my wife yesterday. We were having a conversation about I went to CVS, and CVS pays $15 an hour for a farm tech, but Chick-fil-A is paying $18. Now, I could go to Chick-fil-A and get more money, but most likely if I want to be in like the pharmaceutical industry, I'm going to go to that $15 an hour job, but it comes to a community thing, right? Like I know that I'm backed by college. I know that I'm getting into that for, other reasons. So now really, how are you attracting employees? And then how are you paying them what their worth is? I'll end there because I can keep on going.
No, I love what you're saying. Yes, I love what you're saying. There is a saying in Spanish I love it, and I'm going to share it. It says, renovarse o morir. Translated means either you renew and you renovate, or you perish, right? And that's what businesses need to be doing. Keep relevant, keep doing. So what you're talking about right now, Dayron, really is about adapting to the new times. Like, because of the pandemic and now the great resignation, we have to be adapting. And yes, part-time CEOs, what's next? Like, I do remember that just big corporations, I learned about State Farm that actually built a huge corporation, and they actually closed a lot of hubs, and they all moved into Dallas, and it was a beautiful type of like business building with shopping center for the employees. And then the pandemic hit, and now what's going to happen? Well, they had to turn into hybrid positions, and I've been reading about that a lot, because a lot of companies have to do that. Twitter went fully remote, and yes, they have invested a lot in buying real estate for their employees and the fun places to go to work to. And now it's people don't want to be going to the offices. Tell me about you, Kristen, please. What is the advice you would share?
2 pieces of advice I will share. The first one is, once you start your business, choose your clients carefully. And I say that because I've learned it the hard way, but also I think that as you get started, you'll find out, as I found out, my resource bandwidth was my number one obstacle. There's only 2 of us, and there's only so many hours in the day. And we want to build and scale and grow. And as you're excited about new business, you want to say yes to everything. But there may be like values differences that would deter you from your purpose and your mission. And there may also be an opportunity that would pull you away from your strategy as a business person in a way that kind of constricts your growth. And so you need to be very conscious of that, because, for example, you might have a great opportunity come and it'll suck all of the energy, and there won't be any time left to business develop further opportunities. And you always be closing, like Dayron said. You always need to keep an eye on the future of what's coming down the pipe, and just be really selective and make really strategic decisions about who you decide to work with. And the second thing I'll mention is, you are not in this alone. I will be very frank and honest that I was terrified about the idea of starting my own business, and I gave myself a calendar month to do everything I could to talk myself out of it, because it was so risky and dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. However,
but your dad wouldn't let you.
Oh yeah. Well, he lets me make my own decisions, thank goodness. But here's where I landed, is I gave myself a month to talk myself out of it, and I couldn't find a good reason not to. And the minute I launched into this business with my partner, who, if you have the chance to have a partner, absolutely do it, because she makes my life so much better. But what we found is there are so many networks of folks that are trying to help people with this. And so I'm an extrovert. I used to be a recruiter. I'm very good with people. However, even if you're not, that's the challenge you push yourself towards, is putting yourself out there. Go hang out at DivInc. Go hang out at any sort of entrepreneurship or community gathering. Get on Lunch Club. I'll send you an invite. Network everywhere all the time, because there's so many other people that are going through the same challenges as you are, and you're not alone. I thought I was going to be alone and everything was going to be really hard the whole time. And it's not. There's so much support for entrepreneurship. You just got to go find it. So that's my advice.
I love that. I love your advice, and I love Darren's advice. I really hope that our viewers and the people who actually joined and who are going to be watching this video later through our channels, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, they would feel inspired to actually, again, take this step, because they know, like, they're not going to be alone, and that there are so many things that they need to consider that are not to be scared of. It's just part of a process that actually allows us to be a more, or have a more smooth entrepreneurial journey. So I think we ran a little bit of time, and we are going to go to our breakout room. So before we go there, I want to bring Michael Ward Jr. back to the conversation, because he does have a question for us. So, hey, Michael, you're back. Unmute your mic. Michael, you're muted.
Thank you.
There you go.
It got to happen at least one time, right? But I was saying, thank y'all so much, Patty, Kristen, Dayron. It was a great conversation. It was beautiful. So Patty, what's next here?
You wanted to ask a question about, you mentioned something about the importance of working with other businesses and other business owners, right?
Yes, and as I heard through the conversation, and we really think about the impact that we want to have, that the question that I was thinking about is, what do y'all see as the benefits, just us collaborating and working with another? I know, Dayron, you and I were doing several different things, and we have something coming up on Wednesday through different partnerships. And Kristen, we work through the Greater Austin STEM ecosystem. So what do y'all see as the importance of partnerships in order to work together in different business owners?
It opens doors, right? Like, I stumbled into that meeting with you, Michael, a year and a half ago, just because I was trying to get involved with the community, and it opened doors to so much opportunity for myself personally and for my business. And so partnerships, having conversations with folks who are on the same team, like, we're all on the same team, right? We're all trying to help folks start businesses and be successful and thrive in their communities. We all have the same goal. So talk to more people around yourself in that vein. I think that's going to net so much more opportunity than you ever could by yourself.
Agreed. I'd say, it goes down to, it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. There's so many people that are speaking behind closed doors about you. So, you want champions that, get to places that aren't in, and that can refer you and, speak high praises of you. Again, who knows you is so important and key.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And I would like to answer that before we go into our breakout rooms. Michael, collaborations and partnerships is what influencers are about. That's all they do. Like, look for brand collaboration, or not partnerships per se, but right now, if you get a good amount of followers in your social media, then you can collaborate with big brands that actually would pay for your recommendation or your time. So to me, in my industry, I think it's super important to be able to, it's kind of like a cycle. You grow a good amount of followers, at the same time you grow credibility, and then you can start doing those collaborations. But yes, it's the thing of today. But Michael, I think we are ready to go into the breakout rooms, right? So you can remove us from the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me. Thank you, Kristen and Dayron, and we'll see you in the breakout rooms.
Well, this is beautiful. I want to take this time to close out as we transition. So if you have not received the link in your email, please double check it for the breakout rooms. But I did want to invite just Clifford Dukes out as we close out. So Clifford, do you have any last words for us as we transition?
I sure do. Thank you, Michael. So I wanted to, on behalf of an Austin Urban Technology Movement, give a sincere thank you to Kristen Bonds, founder of Heuristic, and Dayron Bowers, owner of Connects, and Patty Sesma, owner of Places by Patty Sesma, for taking your time out to not just spend it with us and help spread the word in our communities, but spread it across the globe. Everyone who heard you and everyone who will see this recording will benefit from your grace and your kindness today. So we want to extend a sincere thank you for that. And I personally had my pen going back and forth across the paper, taking notes and giving a lot of food for thought for moving forward in 2022 with whatever surprises that we encounter. The first thing I would say is, who out there filled out their LLC paperwork during this hour? Please drop it in the chat if you filled out your LLC paperwork while we were talking. But with that, I want to hand it back to you for a second, Michael, and you can talk about a few things, and then we'll close out.
For sure. So as Clifford said, thank you everybody, all the attendees. This concludes ReThink Austin 2021. So please go ahead and join us in the breakout rooms, but save the date for March 12th, 2022, where we'll have our next ReThink Austin session. That's going to be all day in person. We have some great and exciting topics. I'm not going to share any details, but follow us on social, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll find out what we're doing in about 3 months. And this is also part of 12 Days of Autumn. So this was the fifth day of autumn. And tomorrow we have the sixth day of autumn, where it's going to be our 24-hour run for digital equity. So if you walk, if you run, if you roll, or whatever you are willing and able to do, please do it on social. Tag us, take a photos, and we'll go through there. So thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate the love, and we look forward to seeing y'all next time. Yeah, have a good one. Bye.